Hello, cheeseheads. How are you? It's a nice day as Vlad is joining you here from Western Australia. I'm very excited. The OzSpurs people, they have said, Vlad, we love you so much. You must come to Perth. So I have spent 36 hours on plane coming from Siberian holiday home just to be in Perth in Western Australia, and it's very exciting. But we still have to pod because we know that cheeseheads love us too. So we are joined today by many people. It's a big video pod. We have first a man who is so Spurs he has had his blood bleached, so it is no longer red. Of course, from Vienna is Mr. Lloyd Styles. Mr. HG, how are you today?
I'm doing very well, thank you. It's been a long 10 days since the Dortmund game, but finally Spurs are back on.
Yes, it's very long time to have no Tottenham. It's make me very sad. And Father Nick joins us from Wisconsin, where it's a tiny chilly. He does not have Tottenham and he is on holiday. It's a waste of a holiday, Father Nick, don't you think?
It absolutely is. And my kids all got sick instead. So I had no football and all sick kids. So miserable times. Bring back the football. Bring back the football.
And who else joins us today? A man who has the finest hat I have ever seen in my entire life. Is so sexy. I know he is hiding his gingerness under this hat. He is, of course, our incontinent season ticket holder, Mr. Simon J Burrows.
Evening, Vlad. Evening to all our watchers. Great to be here. Yeah, it's been a few strange days without Tottenham playing, but certainly been enjoying watching some of the football that's been on and seeing a few other teams struggle away at Champions League and Europa League games. So I've been enjoying some other games, but looking forward to seeing our boys back to, not tomorrow, Saturday.
Yes, there has been many games, but Vlad is a bad man. Vlad does not watch all the games. If it's not Tottenham, I do not give a shit. Anyway, let's move on to the game that is coming up. It is a game that fills Vlad with dread, and it is not because I think that we will have a hard time. I think that it is because whenever I watch a game with Burnley, they just stink the whole place out. They are so defensive and so poor and drives me mad. Do you think, Lloyd, we start with you, do you think that Burnley will be the same, or do you think perhaps that they have a different way of playing when they are at home?
I think that they've had some good results recently, and that's mainly been going 4-4-2. So I think they might be a bit more open than we usually see them. Obviously, they played, I think, 5 at the back and 4 across the midfield at Wembley. So you never know with Burnley, but I think that they've got some good results recently. They're on a bit of a roll, and so because of those results, it means that they have a free hit against us. They won't expect anything, and so they may as well give it a go and see what happens.
And Father Nick, you have done some research because you are a good man, and you have a theory about why Burnley have improved. You want to share this with us?
Well, I wish it was my theory, Vlad, but Mike Goodman over at StatsBomb wrote a great piece last week about the switch from Joe Hart to Tom Heaton in the sticks for them. And basically the short version is they've played much, much better with Heaton at the back for them. And they're giving up fewer shots, less quality shots, and they're scoring more. And there wasn't a lot of fancy statistical reasons for it, but there's enough data behind it at this point to be significant. I expect a tough game.
So are we simply saying that the reason for Burnley's improvement that Joe Hart is toilet? Is this what we say? Do you agree, Mr. Burrows?
Well, I think Joe Hart's had a iffy few seasons, hasn't he? Ever since he's had to take the step down from a few howlers and didn't really fill the back line with any confidence. But Tom Heaton is a quality goalkeeper, obviously fairly experienced international goalkeeper as well. So he's come in and made a difference. And Burnley are on a good run. Looking at their stats now, they got a bit of a thumping against Everton at the end of last year, end of December, Boxing Day. Since then, they've undefeated in the last 8 Premier League games. They got a decent point away at Old Trafford, 2-2, so that was a good score. 1-1 in their last game, home game against Southampton, so that wasn't particularly good. But a good win against Brighton away, 3-1. So they picked up some good points and got themselves out of the real nasty relegation scrap they were in, and found a bit of form, and they'll certainly be looking to to try and do something against us on Saturday. But I'm confident in our away form, and I'm confident that we can pick up the 3 points.
We have been sensational away from home. I have to ask, Mr. Burrows, are you looking at naked ladies on the other computer there? Because you are very distracted.
I've just found some old pictures of you, Vlad. So, some few revealing photos there that have been leaked out overnight. So
that could be distracting.
This is like de-gladdening, yes? It was bound to happen. Let us move away from naked Vlad, which is always my favorite subject, to perhaps how we play against Burnley. I know that Mr. Lloyd likes to put a team out and always likes to leave Mr. Lamela on the bench for no apparent reason. But how do you go with the Burnley team? Does Lamela get to put his boots on?
Only if he comes off the bench. It's one of those things. Obviously, we've got Chelsea midweek. We've got Arsenal next weekend. So there is a bit of a theory behind maybe trying to rotate people and save their best players for those 2 games. But I just don't think we need to do that. We've had 10 days rest, so let's go full guns blazing for the all 3 games. Our big issue is at left back because although Ben Davies is now available, he's not played in a while, has been out injured for a while, and Danny Rose is apparently ill. So we don't really know what's going to happen there. But otherwise, it's only Delhi that's not available. So we can pick from pretty much our entire squad. And so I expect us, or at least I hope, that we decide to be attacking and go with 4 at the back. And I think it would be logical to play Vertonghen at left back. We know it's not his favourite position, but we know he's good enough. We know he can do it. He was amazing against Dortmund playing as a wing back. So it's not a bad decision. It's a very good third choice option, let's say. But so I go with 4 at the back, and I would probably play Trippier instead of Aurier, just because I think Trippier against his old club, we should dominate possession. So he will probably get the nod at right back. And I would go with the same kind of 4-4-2 that's worked pretty well for us this season. To me, the issue, obviously, Kane is fit. Do we want to bring him back straight away? I wouldn't. So I'd have Llorente and Son up top. And then the 4 in midfield, it really depends on what you want to do. I always like having a third defensive player in the team, let's say. So I would have Dyer as the defensive midfielder, and then Winks and Sissoko either side of him with Eriksen ahead. It's weird. I feel like it's a relatively straightforward team based on the people that we've got available. But you know what Poch is like. We could see anything. And I think that if he decides to play Foyt at centre half, or if he decides to bring in Wanyama, which would be a bit of a shock, I think we're going to win. So I'm not necessarily worried too much. But if I wanted to play our best 11, then that would be my best 11.
But this is not what people have said for many years, that Tottenham do not have a deep enough squad. And now we play these players that maybe you don't expect. Perhaps we do have a much deeper squad. I want to look at the Mr. Harry Kane thing, Father Nick. Perhaps you have some thoughts. I see you are nod your head. Do you think that maybe he does not start, but comes on for last 5 minutes, like Llorente normally does for Premier League games? How you think he manages Kane back?
I think it's just what you said. It's not what I would do. I would wait a little bit, but they're going to want to get game minutes back into his legs. So I absolutely expect you'll see him. It might not even be the last 5 minutes. You might see him make 15, 20 minutes, depending. And depending on how the game goes, it may even be more than that. If Poch sees something he doesn't like, it's not impossible that you could see more of Harry Kane. Now, I don't like that because Burnley's got some history of kind of roughing him up a little bit. But I expect to see him. I think he'll play.
Did I mute myself? I don't know. Can you hear me? Please say yes.
Yeah, we can hear you.
Fantastic. I think perhaps you are right that we are worried that maybe Kane is still a little fragile, and Burnley are a physical team. They have some big defenders. Do you think, Mr. Burrows, that perhaps we should just leave him at home with feet up, playing what is this game the children play? Fortnite. You think he should stay at home, play Fortnite? Yes.
No, I think Kane would come and watch Tottenham as a fan if he wasn't fit. So I 100% expect him to be at Turf Moor. He'll definitely be in the squad. I don't think he'll start. I expect to see him on the bench, and whether he comes on or not, it depends on how the game's going. I guess if it's a bit of a slog and a bit of a scrappy game, and some few tackles are flying in, then Pochettino will be reluctant to risk him unless we're getting really desperate towards the latter stages. But the team have proved in his absence that they have been able to grind results out, and they've been able to pick up win after win after win. So we shouldn't be desperate to rush him back into action. But if the game's going well and we're winning, and the pace has edged off a little bit, then I expect to see him get a 15-20 minute run out and ease him back in for the two huge matches we've got on Wednesday and the following Saturday.
I mean, I think from my perspective, if we want to get Kane minutes, it might be a better idea to actually start him and say, right, look, if you feel fit enough, clearly you're our best striker, so go ahead. I mean, we've seen before that he does tend to he comes back from injury pretty quickly, but it takes a while to get going again and really get scoring again. So I can see that there's obviously a reason for bringing Kane in. And it's one of those things, like if you expect to be, a few goals good after an hour, then you can take him off and he doesn't have to play the 90. Or you think, I'm going to give him 45 minutes regardless and then see what happens. It is a catch-22. I don't think there's a bad option when it comes to Kane. If he sits on the bench, it's good because he needs the rest. And if he starts the game, then it's good because he's the best striker in the world. We can't complain too much, but it's a nice position to be in. We've got choices. And I feel like it's been a while since we could say that, especially in attacking areas.
Yes, we have had many bad injury times. But I want to ask you, Father Nick, do you think that when we have Kane, that we change the way that we play? And Vlad doesn't like to be controversial, but in some ways, I think that in his absence, we have broken apart stubborn teams better. Do you see this, or is Vlad an island?
No, I know what you're saying. It looks to me like we've tried to play a different way to get the ball onto Llorente's head or to play to Sonny's strengths or to get the ball to Lucas in space. And those attempts actually make us a better squad, I think. I'm not sure that we're better or worse with Kane in there. What I would be curious to see is us to try to play with Kane a different way. We've tried a couple of very specific methods to get him the ball. And I think maybe with some of these different attempts and some of these different ways we've tried to make space with him gone, if we bring him back in and try some of those same different methods, we might discover some new ways to break teams open too. I'm a little worried about bringing him back in for that reason, though, just because it seems to me like I kind of want to see Llorente pull a couple of balls off Trippier's foot and bash him in. I think we can get at Burnley that way. But again, he's not a better striker than Harry Kane. So if you got Kane, maybe you do play him. I don't know. Maybe Lloyd's right.
No, he's not better striker. You would have to be a madman to say this, but he does have qualities, and you may be right that that for things like set pieces and crosses from Trippier, that Llorente can cause some damage. Mr. Burrows, do you think that perhaps maybe there is a case for Llorente starting and him being the man until later in the game?
Quite possibly. He hasn't really done a hell of a lot wrong in the appearances he's made with Kane's absence, and he's certainly willing to put a shift in for the team. He's passionate about the team being successful, and he's a hard worker. He's willing to. He's obviously scored a few himself, and he's had a few nod downs to set other players up as well. And if Trippier plays, then he's got a good cross on him, and it's certainly something that Llorente can get on the end of. So I can see Llorente start. I wouldn't be hugely surprised to see Llorente starting, and maybe Son up front with him. They've been effective together, so why not give him another go against Burnley?
Yes, I take your point. I think that the thing that worries me about Burnley, and particularly with Kane coming back, is that Burnley are a very physical team. The very gravely Mr. Dice. He does not like his teams to play flowing football, shall we say. He likes to get in the opposition's face. He likes to spoil. He likes to get breakaways and score perhaps from free kicks and corners. Do you think, Mr. Lloyd, that Burnley can be a danger to us, or do you think that we have enough to hold them with their physical threat?
I definitely think Burnley are a danger. I mean, we've not really been good from set pieces all year, and as you said, that's one of Burnley's strengths. We've got. I was looking at the stats to see kind of which strikers are in form, and everyone knows about Aguero and everyone knows about Son, but people don't really seem to know that Burnley's Ashley Barnes has got, I think, 5 goals already in 2019. It's a decent return, and I mean, living in Austria, Ashley Barnes his mum is Austrian. We all know this because we all wonder whether he's going to come and play for the Austrian national team. So we kind of follow it a little bit in Austria about how well he's doing. But he and Chris Wood has always been one of those strikers that it seems to do well. I feel like Chris Wood is the new Shane Long, the one that kind of doesn't do much really apart from score. And so teams think, okay, maybe he could come in and be the new backup or whatever. But he's clearly a decent finisher. So like Burnley have their strengths, and I think we know what they're going to be. It's just a question of whether we can stop them. And I think, as always, the way with Pochettino is that he wants to starve teams of possession. I mean, Barnes and Wood aren't the fastest, so a ball over the top should be quite easy to deal with. So it's just a question of dominating midfield and stopping Burnley from getting the ball. If we can do that, we should win. I mean, obviously the home fans will be behind their side, but I'm not massively worried. I feel like Burnley have some strikers that can take the chances that they do create, so we have to be wary. But yeah, I don't know. Like, worried about Burnley? No. But you know what? I might be more worried about Burnley's scoring than I am about Chelsea. So we'll see.
Well, it would be very Tottenham to draw 1-1 at Turf Moor and beat Chelsea 6-0. But hopefully this does not happen. It's an interesting place. You mentioned the crowd being behind them. Turf Moor is a very interesting old stadium, and they do have a very partisan crowd. Mr. Burrows, have you been up to Burnley for a game? Have you experienced this for yourself?
I have. I went about 2 or 3 years ago for an FA Cup match. It was a cold Monday night in early January, and it was a long old coach journey up. The coach left White Hart Lane at midday. Didn't get to Burnley until about 6 p.m. Had to kill a couple of hours before kick-off. Went 1-0 up and then conceded an equaliser late on, so 1-1. Didn't get back to London until about 2 in the morning. Had to sleep in the office at work, waiting for the first train home. Got home to my car at the station, which then broke down. So it was a miserable old trip. But glad to have ticked that one off the list, and I haven't been back since. But yeah, Burnley, they are fairly passionate supporters. They've got a lot of old wooden seats and fans that get up for their football. Not a lot else to do in Burnley, I'm led to believe. Sorry to any of our fans in Burnley. But yeah, they'll be up for it. But I'm pretty sure we'll be able to silence a home crowd and get the job done.
I think that I always admire the people who go to places like Burnley, because it's something of a hellhole. Is only slightly better than Birmingham, only slightly. Father Nick, you don't go to the games, but how do you think the home crowd in Burnley makes a difference? Do you think they can get behind their team and make them play better than they did at Wembley? Because at Wembley they were dog shit. Yes.
They were pretty terrible. Negative stuff. It's hard to tell from the television, but what doesn't lie is the form they have there. The last 2 to 3 years, they've been pretty much there. I think it was 2 years ago there. They went unbeaten there for a pretty hefty period of the season. And they brought everybody in there, and nobody could get a point off of them or get 3 points off of them. So, I mean, I don't know about what comes through the TV, but the stats don't lie there. It's pretty clear that they're tough to beat there when everything's moving, and the fans have got to be a part of that. That's the only part that changes from stadium to stadium, and of course the home field piece. But they're doing a good job up there at Turf Moor.
I remember last season when we played there, we won 3-0. It was pretty comfortable in the end, but we got an early penalty that was, a bit iffy. I mean, like you've seen them give them, but I think we were all a bit relieved that we got it. And that early goal really settled us down, and it does take the steam out of the supporters. They don't stop supporting Burnley, but obviously if they get a goal, then they've really got something to hold on to. So that we have to be wary of that. But the Burnley fans, I mean, they do a really good job, and I feel like it's all everyone used to joke about a wet Tuesday night in Stoke. It feels like Burnley has kind of taken over that mantle in the Premier League now. They're the team that use the elements that can really get up and at you. And, for a team like Spurs, we're much stronger than we used to be, but there is still that worry that we do fold in certain elements. So it's not going to be an easy game. I mean, we all think Burnley, okay, yeah, they've been rubbish this season, but I don't think many people really think about the results they've had recently. I think most of us probably looking up in preparation for the game were a bit surprised to see that they've done so well. So it's tough. It's going to be tough.
So we make some predictions, because I know how much you love your predictions. Mr. Burrows, let's start with you. How you think the game ends?
I'm going to go for Burnley 0, Tottenham 2.
Father Nick?
Yeah, I'm going to go Burnley 1, Tottenham 3. We get an early goal that cracks it open, and at that point, everything melts down for Burnley. And
Mr. Styles?
I have the sneaking suspicion this is going to be a high-scoring game. I don't know why. I think both teams are going to go for it. I think that our defence is a bit creaky, but I could see something similar to what we saw at Everton, where we might score 5 or 6. So I'm going to go Burnley 2, Tottenham 5.
I'll have £1 on that. I'm getting £1 on that in the book. First, I'm going to be knocking on the door of the bookmaker tomorrow morning. £1 on Tottenham 5-2.
I think for me that Burnley are very strong, and Tottenham can be shaky in these places, and I think that we will win 6-0, of course. So, Mr. Lloyd and myself, we agree on something for once, which is always a happy day. I want to say thank you for the people that are watch. I want to say thank you for joining me. Vlad has a busy weekend. I'm going to Darren Anderton. You remember, of course, Darren Anderton, the king of assists. I admired his balls very much for a long time, and I'm looking very much forward to meeting him. So Vlad is going off to enjoy Perth. Thank you for joining me, Father Nick, HG, and Mr. Burrows. Thank you for being here, and we will see you soon in the room of cheese.
Cheers, everyone.
Come on, you Spurs.
Come on, you Spurs.
Do it.